Hey, what's up? Welcome to DGenEd. That's degenerative education, meaning none of this is financial advice. Just me having fun looking at charts, like the chart behind me, which is of Tilray Brands, ticker symbol TLRY. And I will also be going a number of other cannabis stocks here in this video today because A, it was requested, so thanks for giving me the request to do this. And also, we did get some pretty interesting news regarding cannabis in the US. So I also wanted to go over that. And before I get into the video, I want to note that I am putting timestamps down below, so you can skip to the ticker of interest. But also, it'd be great if you watch the whole video and then let me know in the comments which ticker you'd like me to follow up on. Be happy to do it. I have been doing a lot of videos on Tilray over the past month or two. I've also done some on Canopy Growth Corporation, ticker symbol CGC, but I haven't the past few weeks. So, happy to follow up on that one in more detail as well, but you just let me know in the comments what you would like to see more of. But before I get into the tickers, I did want to go over the news. And so that is basically that there is potential for immediate DEA rescheduling of cannabis. So I thought I'd go over what that is. I had thought this was on news that it might be legalized, but it's actually different from that. So it might actually be a little bit more hype than, news that I think would be beneficial to the majority of us. But I'll just switch over to the web browser so we can look at the DEA's page on schedule drugs. And so if we look at Schedule 1, that is what cannabis is currently falling in right now, along with heroin, which is just ridiculous. But that's what it is in the US right now. And so there is talks of moving cannabis from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3. And so, I thought I'd just go over what that is. And this is really, I would say, more like medical classification, not legalization. So, this would be, so you could get better access to cannabis via a prescription, but not just through recreational usage. And so looking at Schedule 3 here, it says Schedule 3 drugs, substances, or chemicals are defined as drugs with a moderate to low potential for physical and psychological dependence. Schedule 3 drugs abuse potential is less than Schedule 1 and Schedule 2 drugs, but more than Schedule 4, obviously, as far as this is broken down. And some examples of Schedule 3 drugs are products containing less than 90 milligrams of codeine per dosage unit, such as Tylenol with codeine, ketamine, anabolic steroids, and testosterone. So all of those things are drugs that you could get with prescriptions, not just an over-the-counter drug or, something that you could get for recreational use. So, it's not legalization, but it is progress. However, this is progress that is well overdue. So it is, I don't really think that great of a thing. It's old news, and it's really just rumor right now. It should be old news, I should say. And currently it's rumor. It may happen. It hasn't yet. And so this could be a buy the rumor, sell the news type of scenario, which means there could be a lot of upside for some of these tickers. But it also could just be that maybe this doesn't get passed and it's short-lived, or it is just talk and nothing actually happens. And before I do switch over to the charts, I did want to go over what Schedule 1 drugs are, and just for kind of the comparison of what cannabis is currently listed as. And so Schedule 1 drugs, substances, or chemicals are defined as drugs with no currently acceptable medical use and a high potential for abuse, which is, just completely ridiculous as far as cannabis goes, especially considering that it is in the same schedule as heroin. So in my opinion, just very ridiculous. This should have been done years, if not decades ago. And the fact that it's only being talked about right now, it's not really that much progress. But anyways, enough of my ranting about that. Let's get into the charts. And so here, just looking at Tilray, it did close on Friday, March 15th, at a price of $1.73, being up about 8%, a little over on the day, as you can see with this big green candle. But it did continue even higher in the after hours, going up more than 8.5%, going to a price of $1.88. And so $1.88 is just below this 1618 extension from this Fibonacci retracement here, and that is at a price of $1.86.6. So I do think that would be a key level for the stock price to hold. But I do suspect that since this is an after-hour run-up, there will likely be at least a little bit of a pullback, maybe not an entire gap fill, but I do think we will see a somewhat of a retrace. And so levels to the downside that I think stock price could return to before moving higher. And so I think with this one, this is a great example of, you could chase it right now, but I think it'd be better to wait for a pullback before entering in. And some of those levels, one is the 236 from this retracement I'll show in a minute when I take a step back. And that is at a price of $1.82.2. Then also we do have this high here at a price of $1.76.5 based on this retracement that I did here following this double bottom formation, hitting a low of $1.60 on March 14th, so on Thursday. And so just taking a retracement from that, there are some other levels that do stand out to me. And so I do think that it is quite possible stock price could be returning to around the $1.70s, perhaps returning to the closing price. And a big reason for that is this purple line that I have drawn on there, which, if that is based on these two touch points, one being a low back in June of 2023, and then also a low in November of 2023. And so from those pivot points, this purple line has acted as support. It does look like we got kind of a fake out breakdown over here when we formed this double bottom. And so I do think that, while we did fake out break below that, are trading above it now, I do think that price could return to around that level. So, I do think that this is a good exercise in practicing averaging into a position if one is not currently holding Tilray. I do think it will be returning to some of these levels. And so rather than chasing or, waiting for it to come down to 173, maybe it never does. I think that these are some other levels that one could be averaging into a position at, like 187, 182, and 177. And then potentially, down to 173. I do have 172 marked here by this orange line, which is based on the low that was hit on November 28th. Also, from this Fibonacci retracement, I just have the base of that at 175. That was the low hit on December 13th. So really, in the 170 to 176, 77 range. I do think that could be a great dip buying opportunity, but I also do think that, that could be a dip buying opportunity following the rumor, following the news and this rage. I do think that this could be a very risky play with, chasing this rumor that's going on. And when the news does come out, whether good news or bad news, I do think Tilray, as well as these other stocks, could be pulling back a lot. So I do think it is good to be trading these with caution. And on the note of starting with Tilray, I didn't just start with them because I've covered them a lot before. I also started with them because they have the largest market cap of all these tickers that I'm going over. Their market cap is $1.29 billion. So I do think, with that being said, this may very well be the least risky. However, it may also be the least volatile. But as you'll notice with some of the other tickers, this is actually more volatile than some of the lower cap ones. So that may not have much here, but I do think it is important to consider the price of these, the share price, and also the market cap, with Tilray being the largest. It's potentially the safest, but also some of them did move much higher in the after hours than Tilray, and I kind of wonder if that could be because Tilray doesn't just focus on cannabis, they also do beer and other things. And so, I think it's probably better for a company to focus on one thing and do it well than diversify a little too much. So I feel like Tilray might fall into that category of diversifying a little too much, whereas some of these other ones might have better focus and that could have better results as far as their stock price and price action goes. So I do think that is something to consider. And I must say that of all of these tickers, the only one that I do hold personally is Tilray, but I do have a very, very small position, so nothing to go on about. But I do think that there is something here with these cannabis stocks, maybe Tilray is the one, but there might be another one that's better. So you will have to let me know in the comments. But now I'm going to move on to the next ticker, the next largest market cap, and that is Sundial, ticker symbol SNDL. And so they have a market cap of about 366 million, and they closed on Friday at a price of $1.40, being up a little less than 7% on the day, as you can see here. They do have earnings coming up on the 21st, it looks like, so another thing to keep in mind. And perhaps that is the reason why they did not move much in the after hours, being up less than 1%, just up 1 penny in the after hours. So, this is kind of surprising why they didn't move as much as the other ones, but there was actually another one that moved even less than this, so something definitely to consider. And so I didn't do a lot of Fibonacci retracements with this one. I just threw up a couple lines that do stand out to me, one being the high that was hit on February 16th at a price of $1.49, and then also the high hit on December 29th at a price of $1.71. Given that those are highs in the range over here and this entire range over here for the red line, those are going to be key levels for us to be closing above. And if we can't reclaim those levels, that just shows weakness, that there aren't buyers stepping in above 149, not buyers stepping in above 171. So something to consider. Those could be levels to perhaps trim at, because I do think that there might be some resistance there, as there haven't really been any buyers above those levels over the course of 2024 so far. So that is something to be considering. And then next on the list is CGC, so that's Canopy Growth Corporation, which I have covered on the channel. As you can see, there are a number of lines here. And so they closed, let's see, I'm just going to zoom in here. They closed on Friday being up over 11% on the day at a price of $3.08. And before I forget, their market cap is just about 281 million. So, getting lower than the last two. And they did move a lot in the after hours, up just over 15.5%, getting to a price of $3.56. And so if we do look at these lines, I'm not getting into the hourly time frame with this video. There are just too many tickers to cover, and I do think it's good to be looking at these and evaluating on the daily time frame, because there might be gaps. There will be gaps that need to be filled. And so I think that's something to be considering. And so with it being at a price in the after hours of $3.56, that is above these levels here, right around 346, 347. So that is going to be a level to be looking at, to consider we might be pulling back to that level. The next one up is this 1618 extension from this retracement here that is at a price of $3.64.4. That will be a key level to be closing above, but I suspect we will be bumping our heads there, hopefully finding 346 as support. But if not, we could be moving lower, like potentially to the low that was hit on February 14th at a price of $3.30. And also, before I do move on to the next ticker, I did want to point out that I did have this alert on CGC. As I had mentioned, I'd covered this on the channel before. And so basically, I had been thinking that $3.50 was a good level to establish a position in. I established a small position, but then I trimmed just because, I get spread a little too thin covering so many stocks. I can't participate in all of them. So I did trim, I did exit my position, and then I set an alert here at $3 a share, corresponding with this 1618 extension from this little run up here. And that was at a price of $2.98 just about. And so every single day, basically over the past couple weeks, I've been getting this alert telling me, hey, CGC is at or below $3 a share, but I didn't add to it. I didn't add or establish a position just because I've said, spread too thin. And so I do think that $3 was a really good dip buying opportunity for CGC. Unfortunately, that is behind us. So I do think that has increased the risk. But I do think that $3.30, potentially a level to act as support if we do break below 346. Hopefully we can move higher in the pre-market and trading on Monday, getting above $3.64. But if not, we now have a gap to the downside based on the high of Friday, March 15th, and that is at a price of $3.14. So it is quite possible there's, going to be a pullback to that level, but it may be after, this rumor kind of fills the air over the next week or so before we get the news whether cannabis is going to be rescheduled or if it's just talk and not actually going to happen. I think price could be pulling back a lot. So very good to be considering that. And then also, I'm going to move on to the next ticker. And so that is Organigram Holdings, ticker symbol OGI. And so on Friday, they were up over 11%. Closing at a price of $2.07. So it's quite possible this one will be gapping up a lot. Once the market opens, maybe they just don't have after hours trading. I can actually check that real quick. They do have some after hours trading. It just ended up being flat. So it's kind of, not really that exciting for this one. But, I do think this could be moving higher, especially because if we do look at this pattern here that I have highlighted, it does look like this could be a bull flag or bullish consolidation here. And so if we are to see a price above, let's see, 216, right where, the flag ends here, that could be a good sign. But really, we want to see closes above these wick highs, with the yellow one being at a price of $2.22, right around there. And then this red line being the high here, hit on February 9th, and that is at a price of $2.32. Definitely want to be seeing closes above those. And also, I should note, it's quite possible this is a more, a less volatile one that might be a little less risky than the other tickers, because we do see this bull flag formation, this consolidation here, and it hasn't, overextended so much in the after hours. It does seem like it's keeping a level head. So, it might be, a less risky one to be holding. But at the same time, it does have a smaller market cap at a value of 195 million, just under 200 million. So it is a pretty small cap company. So something to consider there. And then the next one on the list is Aurora Cannabis Incorporated. And so this is actually one that I'm familiar with, from back in the day, pandemic trading, stuff like that. And this one has a market cap of 173 million, and they closed at a price of $3.18 on Friday, being up just over 10% on the day. And they continued a whopping nearly 18% up in the after hours, hitting a price of $3.74 following the close of after hours. So they're up a lot. And so with that being said, this one could be perhaps the most risky of all of these because it's up so much in the after hours. And so with it being at a price of $3.74, the next level up that does stand out to me is $3.81, corresponding with the low that was hit on January 24th. Does look like we have a lot of consolidation there, so that may be resistance. And then also I do have this red line here marked at right around a price of $4.20, corresponding with the low that was hit on October 23rd. And, we do have that bottom there. And then that does look like above that we have a lot of consolidation. So that could be getting into an area where there is a lot of resistance. That could be kind of an upside region. And if I do throw up the volume profile, we actually do see the peak in the volume traded right around this consolidation. And that would be right around a price of $4.60. So that may very well be the ultimate top for this. That's still, like 90 cents above the after hours price. So, still plenty of upside, but also a lot of risk with it having moved up so much. And with that gap being down, here with the high of the day on Friday at a price of $3.19.5. So if we were to, take a measurement from right around where current price is, right around, 374, pulling back to that high, that's a drop of, about 15%. So really not that bad. But, it could, be pulling back to these lows. And so, I do think this is a risky one, but it could also, present some more upside. But I do think the ones with the bull flags, do stand out to me as being a little more manageable as far as the risk goes. Oh, and I should also note that ACB Aurora Cannabis did just do a 1-for-10 reverse split on the 20th of February. So I do think it is good that they have that behind them. So I do think not only is there this news or this rumor coming out about the Schedule 3, they also did get this reverse split behind them. So, that could be another reason why they're moving so much more than the other ones. But at the same time, price could be, cooling off sooner rather than later. So it's good to be cautious with this one. Then the next one on the list is HITI, ticker symbol HITI. And so they have a market cap of 143 million, having closed on Friday at a price of $1.82, being up just under 10% on the day, and actually being down in the after hours by about 1.65% in the after hours. So, really not so good in that respect, since there was this good news about Schedule 3, or this rumor, I should say, about Schedule 3. But this chart also does have, this bull flag pattern. So I do find this a little more compelling because it's not just based on rumor. It's also based on, technical patterns in the chart. A bull flag and a potential breakout. We did close above the top of this channel, which is based on the average prices in this range. I believe 1 standard deviation is how you get the top. And so with that closing above that level, I do think that is good. And so the pullback in the after hours is to a price of 179, right around where the cursor is, and that does correspond with the top of that channel or the top of that flag there. So, it could be testing that as support before continuing higher. So I do think this one is, a little bit cooler than the others. And the next levels up that I do see, one at 193, the yellow line here based on the high, that was hit on February 20th. And then the next level up is at 199, or, right around $2, psychological level there. And so that high was hit on January 30th. And so really, we just want to be seeing consecutive closes above these levels to suggest continuation higher. And as of right now, we haven't seen that. So with this, I do think that there is potentially more upside, with also some conservative levels down here based around this flag. So, I think that is one to consider. And then the next one, the final one on the list, is Village Farms International, ticker symbol VFF. They have a market cap of only 81 million. So this is a pretty small one, trading below $1. So this is probably the most risky of all of these. So do trade with caution if you do choose to do so. And so they closed on Friday at a price of 73.57 cents, being up about 6.6% on the day, and then continuing with that momentum in the after hours, being up exactly 4.5%. And so I do think that there is, potentially some upside with this, like potentially getting back to $1. And also I do see that it is potentially, respecting this white uptrend that has acted as support based on, I'm not sure if this is the all-time low, but the 52-week low, at least, of 55 cents hit at the beginning of August. And then also these lows here hit in the middle of November. And so we did what looks like got some fake out breakdowns around that line, perhaps revolving around their earnings that were just released. Let's see, on the 13th, so just a few days ago. And so it does look like we got a couple red candles closing below that line, but then we did close on Friday above it. So that could be acting as some notable support. So while this is, the smallest market cap, and it does have the smallest price as far as the stock price goes, it is, at support. So it could be making moves to the upside that are quite notable. And so I do have the yellow line marked here at 86.5 cents. That is based on the high of February 16th. And then also the red line here at 92.98 cents, or right around 93 cents. Based on the high of January 17th. And so those, again, are levels that we need to be getting wicks above. Well, not just wicks above, we want to get closes above. Just like as we see here on March 12th, so really just before earnings were released, we saw this big wick up, almost getting to this yellow line, but couldn't make it. So we don't want to just see wicks going up there, because that suggests there aren't buyers up there. They're only sellers. Price goes up, people get rid of their shares. So we want to see closes above these levels. So that is something to consider with that one. But yeah, with all of these tickers, really just, coming back to Tilray at the end, I do think there is a lot of upside potential with them, but considering that they've moved so much really just on a rumor of Schedule 3, not legalization, just Schedule 3 classification, that it might happen. I do think that these are risky, but I do think that, it is still a rumor, so it might be good to wait for the news, whether it's good that cannabis is going to be reclassified, or if it's bad news that it's not going to be reclassified, it's going to stay Schedule 1, or maybe it gets classified as Schedule 2, so not Schedule 3, still working its way up the scheduling classifications, but still not where we want it, still not where we expect. Any kind of news like that, any decision based on this rumor, I do think could be marking a top in all of these tickers. So I do think it is good to trade these cautiously. But I do think, like what we've seen on Friday, like I have pointed out, in the last video on Tilray, does look like there are some bullish patterns, like double bottoms, like bull flags, like support having been found. So I do think with all of these, there's quite a bit of potential upside, but it may be short-lived over the next couple weeks, maybe just 1 week. So do trade cautiously, and that is exactly how I am approaching these. But, you got to do you. And, with that being said, those are just my thoughts. If you found them helpful, make sure you like the video, share your thoughts in the comments down below, and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. Thanks a lot for watching.